welcome back to my kitchen. Today for my next recipe I thought I would make some sweet and sticky honey ribs. I have half a kilo of mutton here. You can use beef, you can use lamb, it's up to you. Just bear in mind that lamb and mutton tend to be a bit fattier. I just wanted to use up what was in my freezer. So let's get started. So I'm going to start with half a teaspoon of ground ginger. Half a teaspoon of dried garlic. I will also write the amounts of fresh ingredients in the description list as well. We'll also use half a teaspoon of dried coriander, or maybe a tiny bit more than that. We're going to add a little bit of cumin, maybe less than half a teaspoon. Just a pinch really. We've got a little bit of chili powder. I'm not going to add too much, mine is quite strong, so you just add according to how spicy you would prefer yours to be. And then a little bit of salt and pepper to taste. Next, I'm going to add a teaspoon of sugar. You can use white or brown, any is fine. I'm also going to add a tablespoon and a half of honey because you do want it to be sweet and sticky after all. So any cheap honey will do, it's fine. Mine has just crystallized a bit, otherwise it's usually quite runny. And now a tablespoon and a half of ketchup. Any ketchup will also do. And there we go. And now just mix it all together. You can adjust the seasonings to your taste. Because the ribs I'm using aren't quite as meaty as maybe a beef rib would be, I'm keeping the seasonings on the lower side a little bit, not going too heavy with it. But again, you just adjust, and I'll write all the ingredients in the description to give it a really good mix. And it's that simple. When you've finished mixing your ribs thoroughly, just put them into a pot, and this will be ready to be cooked. Make sure you get all the marinade. There we go. Now I've put my ribs on at a medium heat just until the pan heats up. After that I will turn it right down to low. You don't want to add any oil to the pot because the ribs are going to be so fatty in themselves. Any extra oil will just be too much. So my pan has heated up and I've turned the heat right down to low. I just remembered something. I've made a little mistake with the marinade. I usually don't add the honey until right towards the end. I added it right at the beginning. I don't know how exactly it'll turn out. I don't know if it'll make a big difference. Hopefully it won't burn. Just don't make that mistake. Usually I add the honey maybe in the last 20 minutes just so it can brown and just look really nice. I've put the lid on. These ribs are going to cook for about 2 to 2.5 hours until they're really nice and tender. You can cook it to how you want it. I know some people like it to be a little bit chewy. Just cook it less if that's the case. I like mine to be fall off the bone. And just give it a mix maybe every 30 minutes. Just so nothing sticks to the bottom and starts burning. By this point it's been cooking for about 2 hours. You can see the fat's really rendered out. I'm just going to test the ribs to see if they're tender enough for my liking. So I'm going to do this by just going in with a fork, seeing if it's tender. And that is going in really nicely. I might just leave it maybe 20 more minutes, and then after that I'm going to turn the heat right back up so the sauce thickens and it's nice and gooey and sticky. So I've let it cook an extra 20 minutes and the meat is really nice and tender, just how I like it. It's not quite falling off the bone, but I think this is soft enough. And now I'm just going to turn the heat to around medium-high, and I'm just going to let it cook like that until the sauce really thickens. I've drained the fat off the ribs and I turned it up to a high heat just to give the ribs a final coating in the leftover sauce. And now all that's left to do is plate it. You can see how delicious this looks. And that's all. Sweet and sticky honey ribs made really easy with some steamed rice and potatoes and veggies. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy the content and you'd like to see more.